All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Not So Wide Divide. Again, this morning it's just me and Cody. Tori's at work called him off. He's a busy man, so we will excuse him again. We wish him back soon. We hope that he comes back to us because we enjoy whenever he's with us, and we have this 3-part conversation. That was our whole premise on this. But anyway, the show must go on, and we got some stuff to talk about. Cody's been our topic master lately. He's been bringing some stuff to us. And it's like, yeah, okay, let's roll with it. And so he talked about the eviction moratorium and where people may think that we stand on things, where we actually stand on this one. Because it's a topic for me that goes both ways.
Right.
You know, I'm personally have been affected by this, not on the eviction side, but on the business side of it. I have rental properties.
Right.
I'm also in the property management business, so it's been something that, again, it tugs on my heart both ways. And personally, I'll just kind of jump into it. I think they've done a really shitty job on how they've handled it. But I'll dissect into it a little bit more. So, what's your position? What's your take on it?
Well, I don't think it'll be a surprise to people. My feelings on it. Look, nobody likes to see anyone evicted, right? They talk about just, throwing people out in the streets and this and that, and nobody wants that. That's why there's a process in place to have somebody evicted, to give them notice, like first and second notice, and they have a date that you have to be out of this property by this time, so that it gives you an opportunity to find another place to live, to put things in place to be able to not be out on the streets. You can't just live in people's houses forever without paying rent. I mean, it blows my mind to think that the government can come in and say that somebody else can just basically seize your property. Because that's basically what they're doing.
They're going one step above squatters' rights.
Right. It's ridiculous.
It doesn't have to be a vacant property.
And look, it's not just the moratorium. It's overstepping legal grounds. Like the CDC does not have the right to evict a moratorium on evictions. Look, the Supreme Court said they don't have that right to do that, and they're doing it anyway. That's the scary thing to me.
Well, because it's once your president comes forward and consistently forces legislature on it, it's kind of,
But he tried getting it passed properly, and it got shut down. So then he even came out and said that I know this will not have constitutional muster to he basically said I know it's illegal. I know what I'm doing is wrong, but I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind. If you or I walk into a bank and say, I know it's wrong to take this money, but we're just going to do it anyway, we're going to jail.
Absolutely.
It's a slippery slope, and I don't want to go down that.
So when the eviction moratorium first was in place, I was 100% for it, because even like I said, I was hoping that my tenants would reach out to me, and we could work something out if they did have a problem. Because if you were in the service industry, if you were in plenty of industries, but the service industry in industries like that are cash related and daily pay rate. It's not like you have a 40-hour week that you're used to a certain amount of money. A short window of a shut off. So if you are watching this and not listening to the podcast, go listen to it, because there's 4 minutes and 48 seconds that may not be on the recording.
We can always add the
I can add the audio into it.
have the video pick up.
Yeah, but where we're at with it was the eviction moratorium is, and like I said, when it first happened, I was okay with it. I was for it. You have folks that, man, you get a first notice, you get a second notice, but it's all within a 40-day period.
Yeah.
Right. And with the so many unknowns, you would have a huge boom in the homeless population. People would have been homeless.
I don't think so.
How would you not think so?
Because it goes back to the same problem that a lot of businesses are having right now. Is you make more money sitting at home.
But at first, that wasn't the case,
and I get that,
and that's why I said it first.
Right.
At first, that wasn't. There was no stimulus. There was no free money coming. There was no unemployment.
Before the stimulus and the unemployment went up, absolutely. Don't just throw people out on the street when it wasn't within their control on whether or not they can work or not. But once that stimulus stuff came into place, give a little bit of a window for those people to be able to catch up with any kind of back bills they have. But that money was specifically meant to cover such things as rent and food and those type of things. It's not the landlord's fault that these people didn't make good financial decisions and they went out and bought whatever they bought or squandered the money that they were given. After the fact.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, that after the fact was, that was 12 months. The first stimulus check rolled out 9 months after people didn't have jobs.
But I also think
unemployment didn't come in until over 180 days. So you have 6 months of this eviction moratorium that, as a landlord and as a business owner that plays in this field, I was okay with, and that's why I said, but they're running it like a circus.
Well, they should have given landlords some subsidies too. And they may have given them something.
They have if you can prove significant loss of income.
That shouldn't be hard for a landlord to do if you haven't been getting rent in the last 12 months from a property.
What if you're not getting rent from 25% of your tenants? Is that significant?
To me, yeah. I don't care if it's one tenant.
Again, but that's the problem with a lot of these policies. Right, they're so up for interpretation.
Right, and they're written that way.
Well, exactly, and so that's the frustrating part is that you get one case manager when you apply for something that says, well, that's not significant. Like there's no specific, and it's like, okay, well, if I have two, rental properties or a multi-unit property, and you have 3 tenants that aren't paying you out of 6 or 8. Right, it might not be sufficient, but if those 3 are the higher 3-bedroom units that are paying it's like, well, yeah, percentage. Like, there's so many,
This is another facet of it that blows my mind is, so if I'm renting from you, and I haven't paid you in
18 months.
18 months, you can't evict me, but you're still responsible to pay the bank for the mortgage on those things.
Nope. That's where it did protect them. So if you, but again, there are stipulations. Majority, it depends on how your company is structured, right? If you just have a generic line of credit that is set up and say that you're buying and selling, commercial real estate or whatever, you could have had a little issue. If you are an everyday consumer that has bought and sold and flipped, and it's just your personal mortgage, right, that you have a mortgage on, and it's not structured as commercial or rental property, you could have had an issue. But if you have a legitimate, rental business,
right,
you got PPP loan, number one, that was again supposed to help with that. You could have gotten other assistances, and then on the backside, the banks were working with a vast majority of these people. And that's why the whole, like I said, I go back and forth on it because I hear a lot of arguments or a lot of positions that this is going to hurt the housing industry, right? Because there's so many people that are behind and that are doing this, and it's gonna really hurt the housing industry. And it's like, it's not. All the banks are going to do is remodify all those loans. And it's sad. It's ridiculous that you and I did not have, we didn't have income loss, during this, our job stayed, and I mean, I had a lot of income loss, but I had a job.
Right.
I had income. I was able to pay my bills.
Well, and
that,
I was too, but my job stayed in effect. But there are a lot of people who have secondary jobs that or you know, I mean, I work extra, you know, to make extra money. A lot of those businesses, when they shut down, there was no need for extra security at these places. So there are secondary
substitute
implications.
a good portion of your household income.
Right. So, now, you know, not that this podcast is supposed to be giving financial advice, but that's the reasons why you live within your means, and you make sure that it's just that it's a supplement to your income, but not solely reliant on that extra income source, if that makes sense. Like you have to have a rainy day fund. You have to have that emergency fund of money in case things out of your control happen. And like my wife and I, they can cut out all extra duty stuff, and my bills are still paid. Right? Like it's not detrimental. Right. And I think that's where a lot of people make mistakes is if they do get a second job or they do have that little extra source of income, they go out and get more bills, you know, and that's where.
Yeah, I mean, I live in that spectrum too, in the business world. So yeah, I get it. You know, there's a lot of people. But there's a lot of people in this that were affected by this moratorium or would have been drastically affected that don't fit that shoe of people that have made poor financial decisions. And people
I get that. Absolutely.
And so, that's why I said for the first 6 months, I was 100% okay with how it played out. You know, pause, see what's going on, see what options are.
And I think most people were.
But after that point, you had to get, and look, landlords, because again, I see it on both sides, you know, dealing with banks and the property management company, and we do a lot of foreclosures. So that was also part of this eviction moratorium. It wasn't just landlords and renters, it was banks. Banks could evict people for not paying their mortgages. And in that sector, again, talking in the real estate, and they were like, so just to give you an example, so one vendor that I work with in South Louisiana runs from Lake Charles. If you pretty much take I-10 and you run across and you dip it right into the city of New Orleans. This is just one sector, one vendor. Prior to the eviction moratorium, right, there was almost 10,000 foreclosures set to happen in that region.
Jeez.
That's one vendor with one loan type.
Right.
And I won't say what kind of loan type it was, but you know, there's a million. There's conventional, there's VA, there's rural development, and there's a whole bunch of different loan types. So this one vendor only deals with one loan type. And in our region, there was over 10,000 foreclosures that were pending. So, and again, if they were in process but hadn't physically been evicted yet, it got paused. And that was in process before this happened. That these were pending evictions that were coming. So if you take that and you multiply it.
Right. So these weren't people who, because of COVID, couldn't pay for their mortgage. They weren't paying their damn mortgage before COVID.
Prior to.
Right.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that's just every day.
Right.
In the eviction world. In you know, so if you take that and you you can probably, you know, multiply it by at least 5 and say that was the potential. If it had kept going and they would have just enrolled it, you're looking at one sector, one vendor, one loan type, 50 or 60,000 households, you know, and there were no shelters open. There were these people weren't going anywhere.
I don't think anyone had an issue, like you said in the beginning, before government subsidies started coming out and before people started getting these ridiculous unemployment checks, and I don't think anyone would have argued with like you said, putting a pause on things. Let's see how this pans out. We don't want a million people homeless, overnight, just because their industry got shut down and it's out of their control. But that was the whole purpose of getting these government checks. That was the whole purpose of increasing unemployment, was so that people could pay their bills, to keep the economy going. It wasn't to go out and go on vacation.
And that money was not, you can't legally touch that money.
Which money?
All the free money. All your stimulus money, all your unemployment money, all that money cannot be garnished or seized.
Right, which is ridiculous.
Right? So that was my second point of going, okay, so you wouldn't let anybody, evict or go after what was my income, or, those incomes. But when people started getting these ridiculous amounts of money, sometimes 2 and 3 times what they were making, between the stimulus, the unemployment,
right.
all the other benefits.
Yeah, that's why people. It's hard to.
And it was like, wait, I can't take them to court and at least get a portion of that money to be forced to be paid to me.
Right, get the money that I'm owed from these people.
Nope,
yeah,
couldn't touch it. And I mean, it's all public record.
Right,
you know how much people got. You know how much. Maybe not on unemployment, but if they were on unemployment, you know how much they were getting, because it was. Everybody got the same. It wasn't income driven. So it was like, okay, well, you were making $28,000 a year before, and now you're making $3,600 a month, tax free, insurance free,
right,
deductions free, and you're still not paying me, and I can't do shit about it.
Right.
That's what killed me.
Well, and again, it goes back to, for me anyway. Take aside all just the unfairness and the, they know it's illegal what they're doing, and man, to me that's just it's a very slippery slope. Because
I don't know the litigation behind it.
Well,
I don't know.
Just on its base. We have a Fourth Amendment right against illegal search and seizure, right? And it's being argued that they are basically seizing your property from you.
But they're not seizing it.
I get that, but that's what's being argued. The Supreme Court, and I don't know the exact wording of their ruling, but it basically says that the government doesn't have a right to make you house people, that kind of stuff. Like it's constitutionally not legal
to get free housing
for the government to basically tell you what you can do inside your house like that. Like they can't. I know it's not seizing within its definition, but basically that's what they're doing is they're temporarily seizing your property. An illegal search and seizure doesn't have to be a permanent seizure. Right, they can't. Any amount of time that they're seizing your property, it's an illegal seizure. Furthermore, the wording that the CDC is trying to use with their little stipulations with control and this and that, the Supreme Court said that the kind of power that they're trying to give to the CDC is dictatorial.
Explain. What do you mean by that?
There's catch-all phrases within the CDC's emergency guidelines, and I don't know we can look it up. I don't know the exact wording of the power that a CDC has, but the way that they're using it, that whole catch-all, like emergency stuff, it basically gives them the power to make rules and enforce laws without congressional oversight. That's the power that a dictator has.
Yeah, no government entity in this country has that. But that's what
they're doing. But that's what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it expired, so I wanted to make sure, because I got an email last week that, because we started getting a few properties that were,
they just extended
doing it. Well, that's what I was looking up, and he's trying to extend it.
No. They extended it. They're being sued right now, but they extended it. The CDC,
Temporary extended
the
it.
Center for Disease Control, did a temporary extension.
I can tell you on the backside of that extension's not holding any weight.
I mean,
we just did one Monday. And that's why I was like, because it lifted Saturday at midnight.
right.
And then, because I was like, we started getting some that were coming through. And I was like, well, why did we get, because we had one that was ordered that we completed on Monday. The lockout. Go and change locks. Anything that's left in the house we have to get rid of and all that fun stuff. But it was, I'm looking at now, yeah. Temporary extension. But I did not know that. I didn't know it was the CDC that put this in place.
It's the CDC. Now it's backed by Biden.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And Biden said, "I know this is unconstitutional." He didn't say those exact words. He said, "I know this won't stand up to constitutional muster, but I'm doing it anyway."
That's interesting.
It's illegal. And the Supreme Court said it's illegal.
And I think that's why these companies at this point, and again, to my knowledge, they're not. The emergency brake has been taken off, and they're going through, because some people have done the right thing and moved on.
Right.
They've left the properties.
I'm sure.
And
look, I'm sure there's many people out there that took their government money that they were getting and paid their rent.
Absolutely.
They used it the way it was intended to be used. And look, I'll go as far, and maybe I'm just foolish and I have more faith in humanity than I should, but I would probably venture to say that the majority of people who received that money did what they were supposed to do with it. But there's a lot of people that didn't.
Yeah. I agree with you with the majority.
Right.
I think the majority did. It's probably a 70-30 split.
Right.
But that bottom 30, and I say that, it's probably a 70-30 split. And I'm going to venture to say that 10% of the 30 didn't do the right thing or didn't pay those back bills, but moved on and got somewhere new with just with a clean start, right? Which is still kind of like, it's not the right thing. You could have, paid what was owed to you, but at least you're still not.
Yeah, at least you're out these people's property.
You're not still hindering them and going. Right. There's a couple guys that I know that throughout the country that do what we do, and I have a guy that's in West Virginia, and 18 months these people have lived. It's funny that you talked about this because I just talked to him Tuesday. 18 months now they've lived, and they have not paid rent in 18 months. But they've bought 2 brand new vehicles.
Oh, right.
Right? They have gone to Disney. When Disney first opened up, them and their 3 children
Jesus Christ.
went to Disney World. Now, from West Virginia. So that's a flight. That's not like they live in Florida and they went to Disney for a day.
Right.
That's a flight. That's hotels.
You could argue.
You could drive. Yeah, I get it. But yeah. You're right. I probably shouldn't say that, but anyway, that's thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Either way you slice it, it's thousands.
It's thousands of dollars, and they haven't paid rent in 18 months.
Right,
and they keep throwing back in his face, "Well, you got money for PPP," and he's like, "Correct. That's money for my company, for my business. I have to prove where I spent that money.
Right.
You don't have to prove that you didn't pay your rent."
Right.
And
that's for me to pay my employees so they can pay their rent.
Well, and if you don't have employees, there was ways that you can do it.
Right.
It's substitute your income and but you, as a PPP, you have to prove where that money was spent. And if it wasn't spent properly, you have to pay it back.
Right. Which that's a whole nother.
So it's like, that's a whole.
I've never seen
podcast.
So many grass cutting companies and consulting companies in my life pop up since PPP loans have become a thing.
Well, the thing is that you had to be in business prior to it.
That's what they say.
But so a lot of these folks are going to, not that we're going to get off topic or anything, but that's where a lot of these folks are eventually going to get popped. Because they're going to do an audit, and a lot of them are going to get away with it. But I have multiple legitimate businesses and couldn't get it for one.
Right.
So it's like, all right. And I mean, I've been in business. I've been self-employed for 13 years.
Yeah, but you're also filing the applications.
Yeah, I mean,
proper way.
Correct.
You're putting all the real information down. You're going about it the legal, legitimate way
Correct.
of doing it. There's a lot of people that's filling those applications out and putting stuff down because they.
Somebody said, "Well, this is what I put," and I got approved, so I put the same shit.
Right.
And that's what they get.
Right.
But when it comes back to these people verifying it,
I don't put it above a lot of these companies, like these lenders or whatever, that are. You take pride, no pun intended, in the way that you loan money and you try to stay above water. I don't say try, you do stay above water. Some of these companies don't have the same moral standards that you have when they're practicing.
They
these
absolutely
loans.
don't, because there's a big difference.
And that's going
right?
to get a lot of people in trouble too, man. Like,
we take pride in what we do because I lend my own money.
Right.
I'm responsible for every dollar that I lend. Right? These PPP loans and these people that are generating these PPP loans are lending the country's money. They're living the government's money. This is all SBA money. They're just facilitating the loan. So there's another. They're just getting paid origination fees.
Right.
They're not responsible for any of the loan or the forgiveness or any of the process after they close those loans. So that's a whole different ball game and how that's going to come about. So when it comes around to it, and they have to start doing a lot of these verifications, it's definitely going to change the game. It's going to create a whole other world of student loan-ish kind of situations.
Right.
A whole bunch of debt that's owed to people that can't pay it back.
Yep.
But the I don't want to go down a rabbit hole in PPP because
it's a whole other podcast, huh?
It is, because it's deep. And then, again, I think it was a needed situation, but
put down a whole list of things to talk about.
Did it not get blown out the water? Right. But it's back to the moratorium. I think my gut reaction is that I don't think that government should have any position to hold any moratorium for any extended period of time. When the same thing, the oil moratorium,
right?
And locally, we didn't get government bailouts then. We didn't have stimulus and stipends that were coming in because of job losses. We didn't get an increase of unemployment. And I understand when it happened, you needed a moratorium. Like, holy shit, we got to figure shit out.
Right.
I get it, but I don't think any moratorium should be a blanket 6 months. Like, let's do 30 or 60 days.
I don't think the Center for Disease Control is going to put a moratorium on anything.
I agree.
And that's part of the problem. Like you have a woman who, 5-6 months ago she was a college professor. Now she's in charge of the CDC. She was appointed, and she's making decisions affecting the entire country.
Which I don't understand is that
scope of quote unquote expertise.
And again, I'm not hip on the. I don't know who is the housing HUD.
I'm not
sure.
Do we know? It's not the CDC.
No, but that's my point. So why is that person
because they don't have that little asterisk in their power scope that gives them the authority to just make blanket bullcrap rules that are outside their scope of control. But look, the stuff was meant so that in a time of crisis, in a time of extreme disease outbreak, that the CDC could cut some of the red tape that they have to go through normally.
Absolutely.
To be able to put things in place to save people's lives. They are way overstepping those bounds. They're using that same authority to make those decisions to put housing moratoriums on people.
I was going to say, why is the HUD?
Because HUD doesn't have that kind of power.
No, but I'm saying why does not the CDC, right, communicate this with HUD and have HUD deliver this message and have HUD say this is why, like we agree with this, we support this, we do all of this stuff behind it, but you don't even hear from HUD. You don't even hear
it doesn't look like it's a life-saving measure, right? Like,
well, whose life are they? They're not. There's.
It's not about saving lives. It's not. It's not. It's just they just kind of basically at this point just flexing their power.
Yeah, because if you try not to have.
Well, this is the thing. If I appoint you, I'm the president of the United States, and I appoint you to be in control of the CDC, and because of a crisis, you have this damn near dictatorship control under the guise of emergency health. And I tell you, Jarred, look, I've been trying to get this housing moratorium filled out. I've been trying to get this stuff passed, but Congress won't pass it. The Supreme Court just said it's illegal for me to do it. You have the authority to make this happen underneath the emergency guidelines. I'm going to need you to invoke that power. 6 months ago, you were a college professor. Now I just put you in charge of the CDC. You don't think you're going to do that? I'm not talking about you personally.
I wouldn't do it. I would have done it for the first 6 months, and then I would have gotten all of your major housing folks together and said, okay, what are we doing? Where are we going? Where can we go? How can we help? What's the situation? And I know they're not doing that.
Oh, of course they're not doing that.
You know,
it's just frustrating, man. It really is, because I'm a firm believer in people should all be held to the same standard as far as criminality and just the entire scope of things. And when you have people, president or not, that's breaking the law, there's supposed to be consequences for that. And there's not. Yet, I mean, civil suit aside, it's criminal. Where's the outcry?
I don't know. Again, I don't know the legality behind it.
And I hate to be this guy, but if Trump was doing the same thing, the Democrats would be calling for impeachment. I mean, they would be. They call for impeachment three times under crap they couldn't even prove. Yeah. So they started making up stuff. The Supreme Court said what the president is doing is illegal. And he's basically said, I'm going to do it anyway. And crickets from Congress.
Because they agree with him.
Agree with them or not, it's illegal.
Yeah, again, I can't, I don't know. You keep saying it's illegal.
It's constitutionally illegal.
Because it's such a vague way you're putting it, though. And I'm trying to wrap my head around how I get that, the whole search and seizure in it, but I don't see how. It's still my property. I can sell it. It's still my property. Seizure is I don't have access to it. I have nothing. You know, when somebody seizes something from me, it becomes theirs, even if it's temporarily, right? But they're not. They have never seized anything because I can still sell it.
We'll have to look up the Supreme Court's ruling on it. I don't know 100% that the Fourth Amendment is what they went with. I know that their ruling said that what he's doing is constitutionally not legal.
But I wonder why. Like,
I mean, pull it up and see. I mean, I didn't read the entire law. You know, I kind of read the cliff notes on their ruling because we'd had to wait forever to try to read those kind of things. But
yeah, June 5-4. Supreme Court leaves the CDC's moratorium in place. So I guess it did go to the Supreme Court, and they said
it's June 29th, bro.
Let's see. So this is USA Today. This is 1 day ago. This is what you're talking about. President Biden's extension of the eviction moratorium is unconstitutional. He knows it.
Yeah, I mean,
USA Today, which is not a political. It doesn't. Right. Trying to read it.
So yeah, we're not allowed so that we don't have dead airspace.
Yeah. It's all right. We can edit that out. Yeah, I mean, you quoted him dead on. Biden says that the rule in June scheme, it's I lost my place there. Doesn't cut the mustard. Oh, that's funny.
And look,
It says it's not likely to pass.
and look, it said even like go back up. It says that's not. As he noted, the Supreme Court, which ruled in June that the scheme exceeded its extending statutory authority.
Cannot extend without explicit congressional approval.
Right, and that's the part that's unconstitutional. Yeah. They try to get this passed.
So it's not a search and seizure issue.
Right. It's
extended the original terms that is in the Constitution and is in the bylaws.
And in order to do that, they got to get congressional approval, and he doesn't have it. He tried it, and they voted it down.
Yeah, I mean,
and I mean, this is USA Today. This ain't
this isn't
Fox News, right?
Wow. Yeah. Look, this was a day ago, so this is as fresh as it gets when it comes to what's in the mainstream media. To declare an emergency is not legitimate. Even CeeLo, this is another point. Even the CNN reporter suggested that it merely is exceeding his executive power. It's unforgivable. It just doesn't make sense, you know.
And that's what. And look, the Fourth Amendment thing. I think where that comes into play is somewhere in their ruling. And again, I'd have to go and read their entire ruling. But I've heard talking points, and I've heard things, and I've read articles like this that cite that some of it, some of their reasoning behind it being unconstitutional falls back to what the Fourth Amendment covers, and I think that's where that comes into play. Is that's the amendment they cited to make their ruling or something along those lines, but it's just crazy to think that, you know, again, I hate to be this guy, but
you love to be that guy.
Well, okay, I don't hate to be that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
But sometimes, it's because you hear it so often that if Trump was doing this, but there's some truth in that. If Trump had done this to build his wall, you know, to the same extent that Biden's doing this, he'd have been impeached again.
I know, and it just that whole, you know, whateverism. You know, every time that's an argument that drives me crazy. I mean, I get it, but it doesn't.
But look,
on both sides, right? Because I was just reading that you know, people said that, you know, when Obama was in office, he said if the Congress won't move forward with it, I will. It's one of his famous executive order comments.
But that's the problem. These executive orders, they need to be reined back. Like, I don't care who's president.
Well, that's the thing, because Trump signed more executive orders than most.
And I get that. Like I said, I don't care who's president. Our government is set up with a system of checks and balances.
Whew.
And that system of checks and balances needs to be in place so that we don't have a king, we have a president. Right? I don't care if it's Trump, Biden, Obama, Bush. I don't care who. And dude, that also is sitting in that office.
It's even more than just the president, though. The power that these people in Congress think they have,
right?
And people don't pay attention to it. It's the same thing with Pelosi, and it's just, you know, it's not just a Democratic thing. It's Republican too, because when Republicans have control of certain things, they, you know, and it's like we have to stop this party affiliation bullshit and just start doing what's right for the majority of the people in this country. Like, I get so tired of looking at it and going,
Well, we don't-
I get you're helping out a whole bunch of people that can't afford their housing.
We don't fire
enough
politicians.
No, that's yes.
There's no fear of being fired.
Yep.
And that's I hate to say it that way, but that's what it is.
It's just become a big popularity contest.
Right.
It's no longer about, because nobody, and I say majority of them, and like I said, Republicans and
Yeah,
Democrats
I'm not talking about Republican, Democrats. I'm
sit
talking about
here
politicians in general.
and walk around and will tell you whatever they need to tell you to get their vote. And then once that happens, it's whoever's the loudest and whoever's pushing the money, that's where they're going to vote.
Right.
And it's nuts. Because it's like when you walk around places and you look at it, because especially on the U.S. side, when you're at a Washington side, they're not going around. They're going to a few big counties that have big populations where the people where their anchor supporters are, and that's where they're rallying. But over the last 10 years, I've traveled a fair amount, and we just came back from Seattle. Well, we were in the Washington area, and the whole mess that just happened with Seattle. It's like, well, not far away. So we took the ferry across and went to Puget Sound and went into Seattle. Seattle's a beautiful city.
Never been there.
Unbelievably beautiful. Stayed for about an hour and a half, and I said, I gotta get the hell out of here. And the movements and the protesting.
Right.
We live in New Orleans. I mean, not far from New Orleans. We have our own homeless population, right? My wife just came back from LA. The amount of homelessness and lawlessness, dude, to say that it is overwhelming is an understatement. We literally saw people sitting on the corner in downtown Seattle in a home. The area wasn't a homeless camp, but the homeless camp was about 2 blocks away, where they had hundreds of tents, a tent city behind this building, wide ass open, people flaking out, doing the whole shit you see online on the Flocka, whatever you see, the memes. We were at a red light, beautiful park, full of homeless people still, but they were just chilling, right? They weren't camped out. They were just sitting in the sun, beautiful weather. At the stop sign, boom, sitting on the curb, 2 people smoking crack. Crack pipe. I'm like, what? Like, how is this okay?
Well, Democratic, liberal-run cities, bro.
Like, how is that? I understand, and I'm okay with decriminalizing certain aspects of drugs and having alternative things to get, but just to sit here, again, and I hate to pick on these, because it's beautiful. But let me tell you something, as a tourist.
Part of the problem is if a law enforcement officer goes there and arrests those 2 guys for smoking crack, and then the liberal mayor or the liberal police chief there chastises those officers or punishes them for for violating their right to smoke crack on the corner. It's crazy, bro. It's mental. The process that these cities have or lack thereof. I mean, I don't even know the proper term for it.
And I'm okay with you smoking crack. I don't care if you smoke crack, but it's kind of like the whole marijuana thing. Like, every place that it's legal, it's still not legal to do it openly in the midst of public. You have to be in a private building sector, your home. There's these people were just, and look, it wasn't I couldn't see, but there was IV usage, there was needles everywhere.
Absolutely.
Like, it is not and I was like, I looked and I said, there was some parks that we wanted to go to that we were looking up, like these historic places in Seattle, and I was like, I want to go check them out. So we were driving around, I was like, okay, we stopped at this one. I'm like, not stopping here. I'm like, hey, Amazon headquarters is around the corner, go there. Unbelievably crazy. Clean security like crazy. Ain't a homeless person 3 blocks around Amazon take. Well, because they have private security.
Right.
The transit system, the busing system, everything that they have that allows for public transportation and is amazing. But just for the fact, I mean, when I tell you
How's
there was
the taxes there?
homeless, they're fairly high. Fairly high. But if you use it, most people are not going to complain about paying taxes when it's used properly. And when I tell you, their transit systems, they're like, you do not have to own a vehicle if you live in Seattle. Like the transits, they're everywhere, and they move, and there's private roads
most people
for
have a
them.
problem paying those taxes if they have if they're safe, right? They're safe and secure.
And I don't know the crime.
I'm sure it's high. I mean,
You know,
and then, like you said, if they can see that money's being used to improve their quality of life.
which I can tell you, my just general observation is that majority of the people that are there, because I believe the majority of the money, or at least I don't know about currently, but at least in the past, because I mean none of these projects are new, right? These projects have been in there forever, was used properly. Because the facilities, there's bike lanes and walking lanes, like the parks, everything that they have there.
We went a few years ago, my family and I. My wife has family in the Denver area, and we went there, and we're just impressed at how clean, how beautiful it was. Like I said, they had bike lanes and a lot of outdoor stuff. It was impressive to see. Now, we didn't go downtown Denver, so I don't know what their homeless issues were there. We were in a suburb on the outskirts of Denver, but it was nice. Like, we were very, very impressed and didn't feel unsafe. Didn't feel, none of those type of things. But I can't speak for Denver because I didn't go there. So yeah, if I lived in an area like that and I can see that my tax money was being spent what I would perceive as well, then yeah, I wouldn't have a problem.
Well, just
with
to
it
go
at all.
back, so Washington is one of the states that pay more federal. Remember the other day we were going,
Right.
They do pay more federal taxes than receiving, so it's a good thing. I mean, they are using the money and local money well.
But I don't know if the disconnect, and I'm just spitballing, so excuse me if I'm wrong here or whatever, but I think what the disconnect is the more liberal approach to policing, the more liberal approach to the way that they enforce their rules. Those things are, I think, what most of the problem is, and that's why you have these higher violence in cities that are predominantly run by those liberal agendas. And look, what are we looking at?
Seattle has one of the highest crime rates in America compared to all communities of all sizes.
Right. So, and I don't know what the happy medium is.
I don't know how, like I said, this is just, just Googled Seattle crime rate. So,
but I'm a believer in you can have both. You can have a high quality of life, respect people's rights, but still police the criminals. You know what I mean? Like, but it seems like there's some kind of disconnect
and
there.
look,
I don't know what it is.
Know, like I said, there was never a place that we felt unsafe, and obviously people didn't feel unsafe because they were walking. There was just normal everyday, suits.
You get used to certain things.
Yeah, and that walking around. So I'm not saying that these people or criminals, but it's very. I guess it's a. I don't want to say a misunderstanding because I don't think it is. It's just my opinion. Whenever you have these large concentrations of people that are destitute, because some of them, like we saw one dude, man, and when I tell you it was like this whole, we were at a red light for a while, and it was a 4-way intersection. He was on the opposite diagonal from us, and we were coming. It was a long straight, and we saw him, and I pointed at my wife, and I said, "Look at this! It's like this is the shit you see on the internet. Like his arms were like." It was like bat. We do his arms, his shoulders were almost like triple jointed. Like he was flipping his arms so hard they were like the Michael Phelps thing, when he flaps his, and he was flipping. He was rolling on the ground. And I was like, oh, this is not. Like, I felt very uncomfortable that my kids were going to see this, right? And I'm going, well, it's going to be a teaching moment. Here we go. Because there was nothing I could do to avoid it.
Well, that's when you say kids.
So,
this is why we just say no to drugs.
Yeah.
Right here.
And another guy came out from this tent camp, and he walked up, and he was trying to, like, I guess, console him or get his attention because he was getting closer and closer to this road, to this intersection, and he would kind of grab him and he'd pull him back, and he walked back to the camp, and he came out and he had this like liter of water, and he was kind of like pouring it on his head and trying to, and it wasn't hot. I mean, Seattle's the gorgeous weather, and I think he was just trying to come and get him to come down, and by the time we were kind of parallel to him and like going berserk, and he was crouched down, and the guy was giving him water. And I'm going, and he was another guy from the camp. Like he wasn't a, I wasn't awestruck, dude. I was just going back, going, man, this is not something I ever thought that I would see. And it goes back. I don't know if this plays into the eviction moratorium. I don't know if because I can't believe that they've had this homeless population. I don't want to believe that they've had this kind of homeless population pre-COVID.
I'm sure we can look it up.
It
wouldn't surprise me. I don't think that homeless problem, like San Francisco didn't have they had a homeless problem way before COVID.
Correct, but it
sure
was
Seattle
definitely exacerbated in San Francisco. Austin, Texas has another one that's blown up.
Again, another liberal-run city.
It's not though. Austin's not a liberal-run city.
I think it is.
It's not. It's a free-thinking city, but it's definitely not a liberal. It's
look
not.
That up.
Oh, I mean, Joe Rogan just did a podcast with the mayor of Austin like a couple months ago.
I think Austin's.
I mean, it's one of the most liberal areas in Texas, but it's still in Texas.
I mean, I get that, but I went to San Antonio, and it was obvious that was a liberal-run city.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it depends on what your definition of liberal-run city is. But I mean, they don't have. Austin has a very small homeless population compared to its peers in its size of its area.
Well, again, because
San Francisco
it's still in Texas
and Los Angeles.
Well, yeah.
L.A. and the surrounding areas in L.A. since COVID have blown up. Like it's 500 times what it was. Literally, there's people on Santa Monica Pier. There's tent camp. They actually just literally took a bulldozer down the street and just bulldozed everybody's tents and said, "Look, okay, it's enough." But they've made. When the moratorium hit, they were literally, I guess, like you said, it was these liberal policies came into play. They were feeding them every day there and their homeless places. They were giving them like clean needles. They were enabling them so much that it literally drove people from other areas that say, well, shit, I'm homeless here. I'm going to go to a place where homelessness is much better, And it's true that their numbers have skyrocketed because the smaller cities, that their homeless population has gotten way better. Well, yeah, because they went to L.A. because they were only a bus ride away from L.A. So I'm going to, gather some change on the corner and beg for a few bucks and get me a bus ticket and, get free shit in L.A.
Right. It wouldn't surprise me if the local governments were like, here's a free bus ticket.
Yeah, well, that is what they're saying happened.
I don't doubt it one bit.
Yeah, that is what they're saying it happened. So it's interesting. I would love a further discussion on this from somebody that actually is either in public housing, because I would love to truly sit down with somebody that says why these homeless populations have soared. Because if you didn't have to leave, why did you? Right? But the homeless population has, like I said, extremely blown up in our country, and especially in the biggest cities.
I think some of that goes hand in hand too with the opioid epidemic that we have in our country as well. I think, and I'm pretty sure if we pulled the numbers up, as the opioid epidemic came to rise, so did homelessness, so did criminality, so did because all those things go hand in hand.
But if you don't have to leave, why are you leaving? Like normally, you would think, somebody gets addicted to opioids, they're spending money on opioids, so they don't have money to pay. You ain't got to leave your house.
But a lot of these people weren't living in the best of neighborhoods to begin with, and a lot of them were not informed. A lot of them in those areas, they get evicted, like your landlord shows up, just like get the hell out of here. Like it's not, they don't go through the legal process of eviction. They're just getting thrown out.
The door and say you got to go.
Right, and they don't know any better. You know,
That's a good point.
hey, get out.
It's
Here's
very possible.
Here's some dope. Get out my house.
Yeah.
You know,
Here's $100.
right? Here's $100 and some dope. Get out.
Bus ticket to LA.
Right, and a bus ticket to LA. Right. I mean, we're laughing, but
I'm not. I don't. Again, like you said, I don't doubt it. I wouldn't put it past people, you know. But yeah, there was a. You have to go back and live. There's a Joe Rogan episode that he's done. I say a couple months ago with the mayor of
why you
Austin.
keep giving our main competitor
Okay, Joe.
all these shout outs, man. You know, I mean, our numbers are so similar.
Yeah.
You know,
Good God. I think Joe Rogan has. I mean, he has the best
I love his
podcast.
I do too.
In my mind, just because it's so diverse. I mean, this dude has everybody. You know, he has way more comics and fighters on. I don't listen to all of his every episode because some of the people I'm like, yeah, no, I don't. Not to be ugly, but it's like I really don't care what their opinion is on certain things. And but he has some really, really interesting people. And for the most part, some episodes I kind of think that he's scared to ask some certain questions, or he tiptoes around certain issues. But for the most part, you know, he goes wherever he wants to go with it, you know, or wherever the conversation takes it.
Right.
And I think that's a really good format and platform.
Well, I think he legitimately is curious himself about the questions
absolutely.
he asks. Like he's not. I don't think he's asking questions about a political agenda.
No, he wants to know.
As much as he's really just on a voyage of
personal
learning.
knowledge,
Right,
just gains
right.
personal knowledge. And he's so much more. He's so much smarter than he gives himself credit for.
Oh, he is.
Like
He
this
really
guy's extremely. You know, if you're an avid lit, like he references books and he references stuff, and it's like damn.
At his core, he's a comic.
Yeah,
And most successful comics are highly intelligent.
yeah.
You know, they're not just open mic, getting on. Like there's a lot of research and everything else, and knowing what's funny, and you know. So he I agree with you. I don't know if he doesn't like per se know how smart he is.
Or he's just humble as hell.
I think it's humble, and I think for comedic value, he calls himself an idiot.
Yeah. Oh,
Right.
no doubt. When he
But
says
he
the
knows
idiot,
he's not an idiot.
But I really don't think that he puts himself in a level of intelligence. I think he feels that maybe I'm a little bit above the average person when it comes to, and he's not.
Oh, no,
his
he's
retention
above.
when he
Yes,
when he
he's
reads things and
above.
he recalls things that are. I mean, you know, it's crazy. But not to get on a Joe Rogan tangent, not to pull this episode any longer, but I do want to, again, like I said a minute ago, if you are in public housing and you would like to talk with, I would love to revisit this topic about the eviction, about the moratorium, and about homelessness in general, because that's something that we've never really talked about. Me and my wife have a lot of conversations about it. Because, you know, it's just something that
I wholeheartedly, and I could be wrong, but I do believe that there's a direct correlation between our opioid epidemic and our homeless epidemic. I think they go hand in hand. You know, I really think that the opioid epidemic is the causation of the homelessness problem.
I think it, like you said, it definitely exacerbated it. It made it the explosion of it, because even in, I know in our area, you would see homeless people from time to time in Houma. Like there was, you know, you always knew
Right.
there were homeless folks, but even now you see them a lot more, and we still don't have
No, we're nowhere
a
near
homeless issue. You know, I mean, I think anybody that's homeless is an issue. But I also believe that some people just can't live in
That's true.
a place.
That is true.
You know, they are kind of, you know, a vagabonds by choice.
Right. Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
We definitely have those. Yeah.
People are like, no, I need a place for a night or two, but, you know.
I have seen, just locally, people living out on the streets that actually have a house. Like they're not homeless. They're choosing to sleep outside with the homeless, you know, because that's where the dope's at. That's where, you know, like legitimately they have a house. They just ain't going home to it.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
God.
But my biggest issue with the whole thing, besides the whole homelessness and even taking the eviction moratorium and setting it aside, my biggest issue with the whole thing is the overstep of governmental power.
Right, that's your position on.
And
I get it. It's 100% valid. That is an argument that will always stand the test of time when it comes to any policy that's made in this country. Is that we have the Constitution that is that we live by. That is what we are. That's what we breathe, and it's what sets this country apart from any other place in the world. And if we're ever not divided on something, then there's a problem, because that's the whole point of it, right? It's not written as Bible. It is written for interpretation. But, so when
and not to cut you off, but I can understand if I have a different view of what the Constitution means compared to what you have a different view of the Constitution means, and having a debate and discussion about it.
That's where I was going with it.
But when the Supreme Court has ruled that it is unconstitutional, when you have even the liberals saying you're overstepping your bounds, and your response is, we're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
That is a blatant disregard for law, for the things that we have in place. Like I said, checks and balances. It's a step towards a slope that if we don't get control of, I don't know if we ever will be able to.
But every president, I say every president, a lot of presidents have made executive orders and executive decisions that were considered by some unconstitutional on both sides.
Yeah, but this is not some. This is the Supreme Court said it's unconstitutional, and he's like, I'm doing it anyway. I'm not. Yeah, again, I don't.
When we were looking that up, it said that the Supreme Court. Let me pull it up.
It's just how, I don't know. I guess the open blatantness of it is just shocking. For lack of a better description, it's shocking to me. And then the fact that the Center for Disease Control is going to make a decision like that. That's not.
Yeah. So this is another I was kind of clicking through some stuff because it's not there. There is nothing that I found that says that the Supreme Court has ruled that they've made no ruling that they're taking excerpts from previous things that said that when it came to not having congressional approval, right? The Supreme Court has not said that this extension is unconstitutional. What they said is that any extension of the previous ones without congressional approval would go against the Constitution.
And he did exactly that.
Correct. So
he circumvented. Now look, not just he sent it up for a vote, and they said no. They said, I'm going to do it anyway.
Okay.
That's a direct violation of what the Supreme Court ruled.
There's no.
It's not. He's not even trying to hide it. He
says it. He said it himself. You're right. I'm just trying to, these are all. There's not many articles in the last 2 or 3 days and that's something else, like you said, that you mentioned in it. It's just kind of been crickets.
Yeah.
Nobody is really coming out and saying, "Hey, look, what's the deal?" And again, I don't know what. I guess is there is no data that says that there is a need for it right now.
Right.
There's no numbers. I get the extra push for this because of Delta. No. Okay, whatever. I get it. I get there's certain things that you go off of that push certain decisions that is not necessarily public information. But this is not something that
It's just mind blowing to me.
I agree with you. I'm 100% in agreement with you. I think the moratorium was needed. I think it was something that had a point and served its point, and I think that there's no reason after tens of thousands of dollars for most families.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands of dollars for most families, that there should be a reason that you or still not have to pay your mortgage or your rent.
Right.
It's nuts. Absolutely nuts.
And that was one of the main reasons for it. Like, for
Yes, so
having
people
that
could
amount
live.
of money is so that people, right.
Not so people could splurge, like you
Right.
said, you know?
Right. But that's what people did. They splurged.
Yeah.
Because they're like, screw it. They can't kick me out of my house anyway. Why
Correct.
pay rent if I can't get kicked out?
And it was the problem, not to tag this niggas any longer because we got to wrap it up, but so there was a thing like, so, you know, there was no utilities that had to be paid as well. There was also part of the eviction moratorium was a utility moratorium. People couldn't collect on utilities. You know, if you paid it, great. If you didn't pay it, it just kind of circumvented, couldn't cut off services. So the New Orleans Water and Sewage Board is like the worst in the country. Right, the pumps, the system, the water lines are breaking like practically every week now. There's, you know, skyrockets of water coming through the concrete because
another liberal run city.
You know, but
I hate to keep pointing. Well, I don't hate to keep pointing.
Yeah, you love keep pointing out, but it's bad. Mm-hmm. It's been bad for decades. It's only gotten worse. You know,
crime rate high.
And
too.
Yeah, and
run city.
So through this whole moratorium, like, and they complain that they don't have money to fix it. Right? Like, we don't have the money. Like, we're taking all the money we have and we're putting in these new pumps and we're doing everything we can. Dude, it was like $140-something million that's been owed to them because people not paying their bills. It was, I don't know that number to be 100% accurate. It was an absurd amount of money. And this was just on the news a month or so ago. I was like,
but it's not like these pipes would just start breaking.
No.
That's the problem.
But
right?
Correct. But what I'm saying is that how, you know, it's they're it was a huge political issue at first, right? Like, it was people that had been there forever, so they were getting plush salaries and not doing their job and coaching. They were, you know, saying that they were fixing shit. They weren't fixing shit.
Right.
They fixed the problem. They cleaned board. They got new board members. They got a new employees, new head, new all this stuff. And this guy's been kind of trying to clean shit up and doing the right thing. And all of a sudden, well, we need these new things. Oh, we can't because we're owed. People ain't paid their bills, and it wasn't just from the moratorium. It was even pre. Like, they were just horrible at collecting money, and it's like, cut them off. You need like that's a basic necessity in life. Yeah. You don't need electricity. You know, you can live without electricity. You're not living without water.
Right.
You know, if you're not gonna get it from the city, you're gonna go out and buy it somewhere. You're gonna have water.
Well, you gotta have water.
You know, like, so it was just one of the things. It's like, oh, jeez, just compounded problem. But again, man, I appreciate these topics, and I want to welcome somebody. Like we always do. We always say, hey, look, if you watch and you listen, or you know somebody that is an expert,
absolutely.
or, you know, send them, because I would love to get. We talk about opinions, and we kind of see what's on Google, and we kind of fact check. But if you were in the public housing, I get if you're a landlord and all this. I get it. I know where you're at. And if you want to come on, please come on. You're more than welcome to anyway. But if you were in public housing, I would love to have a conversation with you. I'd love have you on here to discuss the moratorium, to discuss the homelessness, to elaborate even further on this topic and the homelessness that, because again, I think it's a crisis in this country that shouldn't be. You know, even if there's some kind of camps or something. Public housing is something that this country spends a lot of money on, and there's no reason that we should have, you know, the homeless problem unless it's by choice. Like, you're always going to have a certain percentage of people that are going to be homeless. I get that. But is it on your end, or if you're in the public housing section, you know, what's your take on it? You know, why do you feel that this is happening? And I welcome that to anybody that's listening, or anybody that knows anybody that is in it. Send this to them and tell them to get in touch with us. So, any last words?
I mean, like always, you know, thanks for coming down this topic rabbit hole with me, and yeah, I don't think anybody can argue the initial intent of the moratorium. And I don't think most people have a problem with it because I guess for the righteousness of it, and the fact that it was needed because things were out of people's control. But it's the continuations of it that I think people have the most issues with it, and the government overreach. I'm a firm believer in checks and balances of power. It's why we're a republic and not a monarchy, right? So that's always concerning to me, any kind of government overreach. But I think it'll work itself out. I think that because we have those checks and balances, that eventually it will work out. As far as the housing thing, I think that is a direct causation from the opioid and drug problem that we have. And until we address and fix those issues, and I don't know what the magic wand is for that, but until we fix that problem, I think we're going to continue to have an excessive amount of homelessness, and the big cities are going to be overrun with it, just because of not just the birds of a feather thing, which that is some part of it, but like you said, when you enable that kind of behavior, and I get why they do it. I think the intent is just there to help human beings, and I don't have an issue with that. I think that if you can help, you should help, but at the same time, we can't be an enabler to making the problem even worse than what it is for people. If you're going to help, but also help fix the underlying issue as well. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I don't know if we get anybody else that comes on and wants to comment about this, but like I said, remember, guys, like, share, follow, subscribe. We need your help to get to 1,000. We constantly push it as much as we can. If we can get even close to that, we can start doing some kind of sponsored stuff to where we could help. But we need organics. We need our people, our friends, family, close folks, friends of friends. If we can get it organically to half of that, if we can get 500, hardcore subscribers that are there, please, we need your help. So I'll leave it with that. Remember, guys, divide is not so wide.